Got what chip strategy we should be going for the rest of the season and my personal plans for my team going on in this video. So do stay tuned and watch this whole video because we have got so much to get through and so many different topics to discuss over the course of this video. If you enjoy it, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and let's jump straight into it. So what better way to start off with talking about Liverpool losing to Plymouth in the FA Cup? And I want to talk about the starting 11 and the bench because there was no key players for Liverpool that pretty much were involved. Van Dijk, Konate, Salah, Szoboszlai, Gakpo. A lot of players missing out, and one of them players was Connor Bradley. Now, you might not think anything of it, but obviously, as we know, Trent Alexander-Arnold did pick up an injury in the last Premier League match for Liverpool against Bournemouth, and that is a little bit concerning when you don't see Connor Bradley involved in the squad at all. You think if Connor Bradley was in the squad, you think surely Trent's going to be back in for that second game against Everton. That doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like Trent Alexander-Arnold will probably be missing out in this game against Everton in the second game, which then also brings in question, is he going to be available for game week 25? Because they did think it was going to be a bit more of a serious injury. Then Arne Slot kind of said that it's not going to be an as serious injury as first feared. But that doesn't mean that he can't be missing game week 25. So I do think he won't play against Everton. And I do think then he could potentially miss out in that game against, or in that double game week against Wolves and then Aston Villa as well. So what could this mean with Trent Alexander-Arnold? It could mean that we could go to Arne Slot as our assistant manager. If a lot of people do own Trent, we could very easily downgrade Trent to somebody. You could maybe go to maybe a Kerkez who's got a good run of fixtures coming up for Bournemouth. He's got Southampton and Wolves in the next few games and a good run beyond that as well. So you could just go Trent straight down to Alexander-Arnold, and then you can move your assistant manager trip from David Moyes all the way up to Arne Slot if you wanted to do that. You might already have Arne Slot as your assistant manager, and if you're in that situation, you're in a nice situation. But in my opinion, though, if Trent is going to miss out in the second game of 24 game, which I think he will, if he's not absolutely nailed on and he's like, we have concrete news that he's going to start that game in game week 25, that first game, then for me, he will probably be leaving my team and I will be going straight to Arne Slot, and that makes perfect sense. But say Trent is available, obviously we'll get the news later on, hopefully we'll have more clarity with that. If Trent Alexander-Arnold is fit, then I'll probably end up going to Unai Emery as my assistant manager. But I want to discuss Unai Emery and the assistant manager chip for people that have David Moyes. A lot of people obviously went for David Moyes, a lot of people also went for Arne Slot, but specifically for the people that went for David Moyes. Now, Aston Villa have got problems at the back, I think it's fair to say. They have got a lot of injuries. Konsa went down injured in the last match against Spurs, and that doesn't look promising. Tyrone Mings is already injured. Pau Torres is already injured, meaning that their only fit, out-and-out natural centre-back is actually Disasi, who's yet to play a game for Aston Villa. They played Bogard and Kamara as the two centre-backs against Spurs, who fed pretty well, to be fair. They almost kept a clean sheet, Spurs scoring towards the end of the game in a 2-1 win for Aston Villa. But as you can see there, it is now no clean sheets in the last 6 for Aston Villa, and you cannot trust that defence in the slightest. People are talking about Luca Digne. He's had 245 minutes in the last 3 games, so Digne's just a no-go for me in my opinion. Even though he probably will get the minutes, but it's just that Aston Villa just don't keep clean sheets in the slightest. It's been a problem all season, not even been in these last 6 games. Aston Villa defensively have just been a pretty tragic, even when they've had all their centre backs fit. So the centre backs will probably be Disasi, you'd imagine, will come into the side with probably Kamara, you'd probably say will play centre-back, and it's not a great centre-back partnership, really, when they've got Ipswich, who, it's a good fixture, there's no doubt about it. Ipswich at home, and Villa have been very good at home, we'll show you later in the video, but, I mean, Aston Villa have been very good at home, we'll show you later in the video, but it doesn't look ideal when they've got Liam Delap, who can score goals. Ipswich aren't an absolutely terrible team, even though you would expect Aston Villa to get through that game. Then as well, after that, Liverpool, you're never going to expect Aston Villa to keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, get up against Mo Salah, Cody, Gakpo, Luis Diaz, whoever's going to be playing in that third forward role. It's not looking like a clean sheet for Aston Villa there. So you're not going to get maximum points for Unai Emery, the fact that he's probably going to concede a goal in both them games, you would imagine. Also, as well, in the last 2 matches, they have failed to beat Wolves and West Ham. There's a lot going against Unai Emery, but then you look at the home record. Aston Villa have only lost 1 home game at home at Villa Park so far this season. So that is one of the positives to go. And you have got the potential table winning bonus against Liverpool, of course, as well. And you've got a game against Ipswich. You would expect Aston Villa to beat Ipswich despite their injury problems. But it definitely throws a spanner in the works that Konsa's injured. It definitely makes Villa's defence a lot weaker. And obviously then, of course, it puts the potential points for Unai Emery and the wins in jeopardy. And Unai Emery, by the way, has only picked up 4 points as assistant manager so far this season. He is the 3rd lowest scoring assistant manager based on the first 2 games since it's been calculated in FPL anyway. So talking about Arne Slot, as I say, if Trent Alexander-Arnold's injured, for me, in my personal team, I think it's just a quite straightforward swap to just downgrade Trent and then upgrade my assistant manager to Arne Slot. There's no doubt Wolves at home it's such a good fixture for Liverpool. You should really expect Liverpool to be turning over Wolves and getting a few goals against that Wolves defence, which is very poor. Then you go against Aston Villa, which is a tough game for Liverpool. Aston Villa are a very good team, as I pointed out before. At home, they are very good. But with the defensive issues, you would expect Liverpool to really get through that game. And you could be looking at some very nice points for Arne, who has done very well so far overall since the assistant managership has become a thing. And FPL managers would be happy with the assistant manager with him in the first game, picking up 10 points. And then we'll see how he gets on in the Everton game, of course, later on. So, as I say, I do just think if Trent's injured, it's an easy swap to Arne Slot. If Trent's not injured, it's definitely a different question there. But if you already have Arne Slot as your assistant manager, absolutely, you're sat in the best position, in my opinion. You have no injury worries with, you probably don't have Trent. You might have Gakpo and Salah. You got no injury worries. Then you've also got the best assistant manager for the best team. So you've got the best chance in getting the most points, in my opinion, out of anyone. So if you got Arne Slot, as I say, you are looking very, very good. Now, it is worth pointing out for the triple captains, you've still got their triple captaincy chip available. Liverpool actually now do not have any more double games, so they're not expected to have any more double game weeks for the rest of the season. Now, same goes for Spurs, same goes for Chelsea, and same goes for Everton, due to the fact that they have all now been knocked out of the FA Cup. So if you're looking at a triple captaincy chip, your last chance to use triple captain is on Mo Salah. If you want to use it on Mo Salah, your best opportunity, by the way, is on Mo Salah in double game week 25 for Liverpool, who's got two pretty decent fixtures, you'd say. And then beyond that, you maybe got an isak in game week 33, potentially, who's going to double against Crystal Palace, and then another side as well. But you've not got any perfect opportunity for a triple captaincy later down the line. So it might be worth playing your triple captain if you've not played any chips going into game week 25. Triple captain's probably the strongest chip, but you've also got to play your assistant manager chip as well at some point as well. You've got to be aware of that. So as I say, Liverpool getting knocked out of the FA Cup, meaning that they will not blank later on in the season. And as I say, the same goes for Spurs, Chelsea, or Everton, who are all now out of the FA Cup. I just wanted to comment on Morgan Rogers as well, because he's a player that's getting talked about a lot. A lot of people potentially looking to bring him in. A lot of people also got rid of him before this double game week even got confirmed. But Morgan Rogers, yet again, was absolutely outstanding in that FA Cup game. The best player on the pitch against Spurs. I know it's only Spurs, and Spurs have been terrible recently, but unbelievable player, genuinely. And it always feels like he always gets returns in the cup competitions, but then when it comes to the actual Premier League, he just gets a yellow card all the time and gets a 1-pointer. But there's no denying that the absolute quality of Morgan Rogers. Let's hope he can show that in the Premier League in this double game week. It's a nice fixture against Ipswich, and then a nice fixture, a tough fixture against Liverpool, but it is a double game week at the end of the day. And as I say, if he can keep the form in his cup competitions and bring that consistently into the Premier League more, then you're looking at a serious play. And for me, he is the number one Aston Villa asset going into this next game week. Looking at all the Villa assets, Ollie Watkins is expected to be back in training, so he's definitely someone to be on people's radar. You have got to be aware that the Villa are going to be blanking in FPL Game Week 29, so if you're thinking of bringing in a Villa player, as I say, you've got to be aware that you might want to be transferring him out by the time it's Game Week 29, or at least leaving him on your bench. Probably be transferring him out, so you are going to be wasting and using a lot of your transfers. So if you've not got many transfers, it might just be better just holding off on Villa assets. Maybe just one Villa asset is enough. I don't think any more than that is really needed. As far as Villa options go, I think Ollie Watkins is the number one. Morgan Rogers is the number one option. Second then for me is Ollie Watkins. And then beyond that, I'm not really looking at too many. I think Asensio will look very good in the game against Spurs when he came on. So I'd maybe put Asensio in third, and then maybe like a Marcus Rashford or Marlon in fifth or fourth. But those two I wouldn't even be looking at. I think Morgan Rogers is just by far and away the standout. He's got pretty much nailed on 90 minutes. He's been Villa's best player this season, or one of their top, at least in the top three Villa's best players this season. And he's probably decent to own beyond Game Week 26 as well. The other players you might look to move on after. So Morgan Rogers is probably the best option, but there's no real Villa player that I really want to jump on and really want to own. As I say, Morgan Rogers, though, is by far and away the number one option. As for people who are looking at potentially maybe using a free hit in FPL Game Week 29, there's been people that have been putting up blank game week teams together for a free hit. Now, obviously, there's Liverpool that are going to be blanking in Game Week 29. Aston Villa will be blanking as well. Newcastle blanking, and Crystal Palace blanking as well. So, for me personally, I wouldn't be recommending playing a free hit chip, because we already know who's going to be blanking, and we can kind of build our teams towards that blank game week anyway, and then use that free hit later on in the season when there is going to be another blank game week. In potentially, I think it's game week 33. There's going to be potentially another blank game week with quite a few more teams as well. We have 4 teams blanking in FPL Game Week 29, and it is going to be, I think it's maybe 6 to 8 teams that are going to be blanking in FPL Game Week 33, and we're also going to be less prepared for that. We already know who's going to be blanking in Game Week 29, so we can already build our teams and start moving our teams towards that blank game week now. I would definitely recommend keeping hold of your free hit and use it later on in the season when it's going to be more unpredictable and we're not going to be able to build up them blank game weeks as much. Then you don't even need to think about the blank game week when it happens if you have your chip still available to you in FPL Game Week 33. But this is a blank game week team where Man City do face against Brighton, which is a decent enough fixture. Man United play Leicester, which, I mean, there's not many that good United assets other than Bruno and Ahmad. Brentford and Bournemouth both face off against each other. Wolves do face against Southampton, so Cunha, I think, is a must in FPL Gameweek 29. Chris Wood as well plays against Ipswich, and Nottingham Forest playing against Ipswich. So triple up on Nottingham Forest could be the way to go for Gameweek 29. Then maybe then wildcard in Gameweek 30, build your team towards a free hit team, or build yourself towards a team in Gameweek 29, and then maybe free hit out of it. I mean, a wildcard out of it in FPL Gameweek 30. I think that could be a very, very good way of going about things. Now, as for a bench boost in FPL Game Week 33, it's actually blank Game Week 34 and then double Game Week 33. Sorry, I said that wrong before. But yeah, double Game Week 33, then it will go into a blank in FPL Game Week 34. So I think maybe going for building your team towards a team in Game Week 29 that you can then wildcard out of in Game Week 30. And then you can then build your team then with a strong, fully strong squad. By then, we will know who's going to be double game week in double game week 33. And you can build a team with 15 double game week players, and then pretty much then you can use your bench boost and you get maximum fixtures out of everyone. That is probably the most effective way to use your bench boost. And obviously these fixtures are nowhere near confirmed in double game week 33, by the way. This is just a prediction as to who goes through to the FA Cup semi-final based on who's left in the competition. Obviously, as I said before, Liverpool, Chelsea, Everton and Spurs are all already knocked out of the FA Cup in the chance that they will not be doubling. So these other teams have got a good chance of doubling. We already know that potentially that game could get put in between Newcastle and Crystal Palace, that double game week game for them, and that's definitely decent there for Isak, Gordon, and then Lewis Hall that they've got in this team. And then also Villa as well could double in 33. You've got United, Man City. You got a lot of teams that you can build across to a double game week 33. And then, as I say, you won't even need to think about it after that, because in Game Week 34, you will still have your free hit to then free hit out, because most of these players will be then blanking in Game Week 34 after. Just free hit into the players that then have a game week in 34 and then go forward from there pretty much. I think that's definitely a very good tactic going forward. So as I say, for my current team and transfer plans, this is the team that I am currently rocking with, and we currently do have 4 free transfers as well. So assistant manager is obviously going to get swapped. We have it on David Moyes at the moment. That will be changing to either Arne Slot or Unai Emery, depending on what happens, as I said before, with Trent Alexander-Arnold. If Trent's out injured, Trent will be going down to Kerkez, who's playing against Southampton, and then it will be then David Moyes straight across to Arne Slot to then have a triple Liverpool again for that double game week. That's the kind of transfer plan with that. And in the midfield as well, I would like to be getting rid of Amad Diallo and then bringing in Justin Kluivert. But then I will have a big benching dilemma, because as you can see, I've got 8 very good attackers. If I do bring in Kluivert, it then gives me a headache, because I would want to be playing Kluivert, of course, against Southampton, the best fixture of the week in terms of a single game week. But then I've got Rodgers, who's got a double game week, I'd obviously want to have for that. Then you've got Mbuemo, Palmer, Salah, and then Gakpo, Isak, and Wood. I want to play all of them. So I'm not absolutely set on the Justin Kluivert transfer, but I probably will end up making it just due to the fact that I think everybody else is going to have him. And if he ends up cooking, I'll be getting a big rank decrease. So there's my transfer plans right now. David Moyes to potentially Arne Slot or Unai Emery, depending on the news with Trent Alexander-Arnold. If Trent's injured, he will go down to Kerkez. And then in midfield, most likely, we will go from Amad Diallo across to Justin Kluivert. So let me know what you think of them plans in the composition down below. If you enjoyed the video, do drop a like down below. If you watch this point, you may as well hit subscribe on the channel. We do daily FPL content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.